God, don't we hate all that fannying about? What do you know, what?
Okay, so hello and welcome to the Great British Shitcom, the show in which we watch sitcoms. I'll start that again. Hello and welcome to the Great British... Take 3.
Should have taken all the ketamine before we started.
Hello and welcome to the Great British Shitcom, the show in which we watch sitcoms of comedy past to see if they've stood the test of time. I'm Mark, and as ever, I'm joined by Chris.
Hello.
And Chris/Peter Swoon.
Hi.
Hi, hello. As ever, this is a nostalgia trip for all the sitcoms of yesteryear. We're not here to talk badly about any existing sitcoms. This is just to enjoy them in every way we possibly
unless
can.
it's justified.
Unless it's justified, yeah. If it's really terrible, then I guess we can say things.
It's worth a button in, but I think it's just the thing that people need to remember. It's just a catchy pun.
Yeah, primarily
Inside,
that.
you know.
Yeah.
And again, all sitcoms like relative to the time it was produced, really.
Anyway, the sitcom we'll be watching for this episode was produced by the BBC and created by Richard Fegan and Andrew Norris, who wrote loads of kids' TV. Did you guys used to watch like kids' TV in the 90s, like 90s shows? Do you remember much?
I was a child in the 90s, so yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you name any like sort of sitcoms that sitcoms, any kids' TV shows that you remember? These two guys wrote 3 big ones.
Is that like live action or animated?
They are all live action.
Were they all for the BBC, or was it for a variety of...
The first 2 are ITV, and the third one I think is BBC. I think that's the order of them.
Was it Maid Marian and Her Merry Men?
Oh, good choice, but no.
Queen's Nose.
Again, good choice, but no.
Were they comedy, or there's kids' shows?
It's kid shows.
Oh,
Did you get many kids shows that are like hard-hitting drama?
Blacker Grove? Well, I'm just going to tell you. Woof. No, it wasn't Zap. Good memory, memory, but no. Remember Woof?
Nope.
Oh, was that about a dog? I was gonna say, yeah, that's probably a pretty good guess, isn't it?
Yeah, accurate, correct.
Accurate, yeah.
So Woof was about a boy that turned into a dog. Remember that?
It's a bit like The Fly, kind of.
What,
I mean,
like
he-
was
he-
it like horror? Where's,
God.
where's my
I've got a
hands?
snout.
I mean, he was able to turn back into a human every now and then. It wasn't like a permanent...
We had control over it. It wasn't like it was just ruled by...
He didn't have control
Sorry.
over it.
Wasn't brought on by a chemical accident.
Sorry,
or
everyone, I've got to
something.
go to the toilet again.
So the premise for it was he never knew when he was about to turn into a dog. You would get this sort of music to play over the top, and he would get this like little itch that he'd start to scratch, and have to run away.
With his hind leg.
I mean, that made his first sort of like sexual encounters awkward, I bet, when he was older.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Yes, he'd have to run away and turn into a dog. But of course, when he turns into a dog, he has no clothes, and when he turns back into a human, he's naked. That was like probably quite a raunchy thing for a kid's show, really.
Is raunchy the white word?
Is what, sorry?
Is raunchy the white word?
Is that why you're banned from the pet shop? Mark?
And primary schools, yeah.
Oh, God, it's naked animals.
Disgusting.
Spoiler, the boy never knew how he turned into a dog. It later transpired that it was when it was really hot, above a certain temperature, he turned into a dog. Anyway, next one, Bernard's Watch. Do you remember Bernard's Watch?
Bernard's Watch.
No.
You don't remember Bernard's Watch?
No.
I was going to say, but I was going to mention Bernard's Watch.
Yeah.
That was I really enjoyed
It
that.
was brilliant, wasn't it?
It was good.
Do you remember one of the later episodes of Bernard's Watch in which Leslie Grantham was in it?
I
Oh,
don't
Lucy
remember that.
Grantham.
The only scene I actually remember, like quite clearly from Bernard's Watch, is him going to a supermarket and using, because I suppose we mentioned that the premise of Bernard's Watch was he had this magic pocket watch that when he clicked it, it stopped time.
Right.
Obviously, big repercussions for a kid. But he went to a supermarket and he used his time-stopping watch to get one space ahead at the checkout. And then he
Little bastard.
What a
started
waste.
time again, and suddenly he was at the front of the queue. And it was, well, got his shopping a bit quicker. I think if I had time-altering powers, that's something I would consider.
Yeah, I think the magic watch is wasted in Bernard. So Bernard was a child
Yes.
called Bernard in the 90s.
Yeah. Yeah, of the 90s. So he would have been born like probably the same age as us, like mid maybe
Something.
early 80s.
Late 80s, yeah.
Yeah, late 80s perhaps. Yeah, yeah.
Bernard.
Bernard. Yeah.
Well,
Bernie for short, obviously.
oh right, I see.
Yeah.
Still Bernard. You ever met someone our own age called Bernard? Apart from on Guess Who.
Has he got a beard? No. Has Bernard got a beard in Guess Who?
No, I think he's got
He's
the
got
one
that
long
little
face,
hat,
hasn't
hasn't
he? Little hat.
No, he's got that sort of like Russian-looking hat, hasn't he, Bernard?
It's a Russian-looking
Well,
hat.
you're at the laptop. You have a look.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Please, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
You do get old sort of names. There's like kids nowadays called like Ebenezer. So
Ebenezer. Didn't
Yeah.
expect that. One final one then.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're all right.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, little Fez. He's wearing a little Fez.
is the Fez Russian? Oh no, it's like a little
Oh, I
Russian.
thought it was.
hat,
Oh
yeah.
no, I'm thinking of the grey hat. So Bernard with the grey hat. I know him.
Is
The
that
third
one of those
picture.
sort of Afghan hats, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm wondering how much you two have played Guess Who to know the faces and the
head-to-head.
hats and.
Our head-to-heads go long into the night. Guess Who. Yeah. We'll get to the bottom of who it is.
Bring back the unopened cases from years ago.
Yeah. Just cut the cold cases of Guess Who. What? I've not heard of either of these. I'm surprised that you have.
I mean, I watched Kids TV a lot longer than I should have done. Didn't have a job for quite a while. I watched Kids TV instead. I'm again big fan of Kids TV. Don't know why. I like the theme tunes. I guess that's why. Bernard's watch ended. Again, spoiler, when his family decided to move to America, and the postman that brought him the watch in the first place, changed the watch for something else, like a digital watch that had more powers because they were going to a different time zone. And then the series never came back, which I think this seems to be a common theme with the writers, because the other show that they did, Aquila, do you remember Aquila?
Yes, I loved
Aquila,
Aquila.
yeah.
They wrote Aquila, and I had that same reaction when I found that out. The very last episode of Aquila, you know, so I was talking to my friend Sam about this the other week, and he described the little spaceship they fly around in as flying around in a little bollock, which is exactly what it looked like.
Yeah.
It did look like a little
fiberglass bollock. Yeah.
fiberglass bollock. Yeah.
No, I love that show. It was quite dark, I think, for a kids' show. I think, from
You think?
memory.
And what was the premise? It was the premise that like
It was like
ancient
a
Romans had
ancient
this
Stop
alien
going back-
technology.
Stop
Sorry,
going
I
back to
know
the history.
But it was.
But let's think. History focuses everything in our lives.
What's the thing? Any man can fly over the winds of an eagle or something, wasn't it?
I want to
Something like
remember
that.
this.
And it was all, I remember it was all in Latin. They had to like research Latin to basically get to the languages menu and change it to English, didn't they?
Yeah.
And
Was
then
it
they
all
could
like-
fly it.
Was it all a history show?
No, I don't know if it. What do you mean?
I feel cheated.
No, it wasn't a history
That's why
show.
it's called Aquila. Aquila's like a.
But it was about
Latin-y
like an
kind of
ancient
name, isn't it?
Roman. They found this
Oh.
Roman thing,
Yeah.
and it was all in Latin, and they had to translate it back to English, and
I
it gave him
remember
a
none of that.
super-powered hand
It's quite a
and
lengthy
stuff like that.
scene of them like configuring the. configuring
The library scene where
yeah.
they didn't do a montage. That was for episodes.
That is real time. Yeah.
I just liked that it was a spaceship. I didn't know it was anything to do with Rome. I feel really stupid now.
Yeah, because I found it. Wasn't it, if there was like, I remember there was a dig, and they found like
Yeah,
it was a
yeah.
Roman dig, and they found a boomerang, and I was like, what?
Mike just liked it because it flew around. That's the part you like.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Flying.
All I remember of the show
Always
is
liked it,
the last episode. The ship went invisible. Remember that much? But in the very last episode, they flew out into outer space by pressing a button they'd never pressed before, and they discovered what was the mothership of Aquila. And then the series ended. So very similar into Bernard's Watch in that there's a cliffhanger.
Mm.
I don't remember that craft from memory being like a sub-atmospheric craft. I wouldn't have thought it would be able to be pressurised, but you've proved me wrong.
I mean, I didn't write this.
I always remember it being sort of open. You could
Yeah,
kind of get into it.
open
and
doors.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't like a sliding door
No,
or anything,
no.
unless it had like some sort of force field.
You know what? I don't think they would have survived depressurisation in.
I don't remember them refueling it either. Like, how did it run? Solar?
Yeah, I don't remember like an SO garage popping up in Aquila.
No.
But
There's
then
a lot of plot holes in that series,
Yeah.
to be honest.
But that said, I don't think it was a documentary.
It wasn't a time team dig at the start then.
No, Robinson was not involved, I'm afraid.
I have to say, just for the record, any other petrol stations are also valid, not just.
Is this going out on the BBC? Or
Yeah, sure, why not? All right, then. I've already mentioned what we're doing today. I don't think I have.
No, this was the extensive preamble.
Yeah, talking about kids' TV. Okay, so the show we're watching today is The Brittas Empire, starring Chris Barrie. Chris Barrie, perhaps better known as his role as... Is it Rimmer in Red Dwarf?
Mm.
With a little H on his head for the hologram?
That's what that's for.
Yes.
All right.
Ignore all the tiny helicopters.
For me, his finest work was in Chris Barrie's Massive Engines on the History Channel.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah.
Didn't know that
Different
existed.
engines. They were like traction engines, various steam trains and stuff, pumping stations, mainly Victorian era, but you know, it did some sterling work. But the thing is, like, I think we might go into this later on, but I'm a big fan of, you know, steam power, but I couldn't really get past Chris Barrie's persona, his obnoxious persona. But
What's he like in real life? Like in the show? Like, so I assume he plays himself.
No, he
What?
plays a Rimmer in...
yeah, does it all in character.
How does he come across in real life? I've
Just a
genuinely
bit of a bell, you know. He's quite obnoxious, and he's got that face and his voice and everything.
Oh.
He can't help that. It's a bit more of a refined Clarkson, I think.
Oh, okay.
From memory, I mean, I haven't seen it for a while.
Interesting. Refined
This
Clarkson.
podcast's great, isn't it? It's just a load of people, just uninformed people vaguely remembering
Yeah.
things. Brilliant.
I mean, I've done some prep, but you know, in saying that, the prep I did, we're now watching a different episode, so
Perfect.
probably going to be wasted. What do you guys remember about the British Empire, if anything at all?
I remember it was like a leisure centre, or it was like some sort of like activity centre,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
stuff happened in it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's about
Okay.
as much as I remember his leisure centre. He had a suit on with a stripy tie, and I think the pre or end credits was him going up a ladder or something. No? I think I remember that.
I think that might be true in later series.
So it's not. I don't even get that from this episode. The ladder.
I mean, we can do a later series if you want, but
Just to satiate that need for watching him go up a ladder.
I mean, that sounds familiar. I don't think that's in the intro for this particular series. I'm not certain.
Fuck's
Yeah, so as you said, it's set in a leisure centre. Episode 1 starts where he becomes the manager of the leisure centre for the first time, and he's basically rebuilding the staff to try make his mark on the leisure centre.
Can I just say that of like must be like post Red Dwarf, or this is after it must be. It hadn't finished, did it?
I think this was after he'd been in Red Dwarf, because when I was a kid, I remember watching it, thinking like, okay, I'll watch this because I quite like Red Dwarf,
Yeah.
and that's the guy from Red Dwarf, and then it was nothing like Red Dwarf.
Yeah,
It
well,
wasn't
yeah,
set in
No
spaceships.
spaceships at all.
so
But
disappointing.
I can't understand why, out of the whole cast of Red Dwarf, they took Barry as like to have his own project.
Well, Crichton had Scrap Heap Challenge, is that? Or was that later than this?
I have no idea.
Yeah, he's on that, and then Crowshaw's was
Robot Wars.
But I'm saying like those aren't in the medium of comedy necessarily.
Yeah, true.
So I don't think he was the most charismatic Red Dwarf
De-
character.
definitely not, but I think for the character he played in Red Dwarf, that I think is the easiest to
Transfer to
that sort of persona. I think you could easily transfer to any sort of sitcom.
I'd like to have seen, just personally speaking, like a prequel to Red Dwarf, just seeing what the cat was up to.
Just licking its own ass, as we found out in Gimme Gimme Gimme. We didn't mention that last time, did we?
That was a good gag.
It was as well.
Should-
So there was a gag in the previous episode about saying about I would miss you about as much as a
cat with no neck.
misses licking its own ass. So yeah, we missed that gag in the previous one. Hope you enjoyed it this time. So as you mentioned, yeah, this was after Red Dwarf. It ran between 91 and 97 across 7 series with 52 episodes. So one for every week of the year.
91 to 97.
Yeah, 52 episodes, 7 series.
Bloody hell.
That's a lot in it, really.
Yeah, I was quite surprised by that. So it done fairly well. You guys want to cover anything else on the British Empire, or should we go straight into it?
Let's just get this over with.
Yeah, all right, let's do it then. We are now going to watch the British Empire. Okay, so we've just watched episode 2 of series 1 of the Brittas Empire. The premise of the episode was the Duchess of Kent came to visit Whitby Town Leisure Centre, and Brittas wants everything to be working nice, neat and tidy. I really don't know where to start with this episode. There was so much going on. I'm going to throw it over to you guys. I can't think of anything at all to say for this to start off with.
Yeah, it's just it seemed like a bit of a mess. Like, part of, I think, what makes certain sitcom episodes successful is they're dealing with sort of one thing at a time. Like, they've got like one sort of plot point that they're following, whereas this one, it seemed to have like, you've got like, it's just stuff going on everywhere. Like, you've got the receptionist, don't know what's going on with that, like some sort of like postnatal depression, like there's some sort of comedy point.
Yeah.
You got the Korean War veteran going through some sort of like PTSD down in the boiler room. You got people fainting. I don't know. It's just very weird.
It's just so funny. We all looked so drained, and like it felt so much longer than 30 minutes.
It really did. Yeah.
And it seemed it was like really baggy, and like every shot lasted about 2 seconds too long. Like there was a part where when he first when Brittas goes down to the boiler room and sort of manages to get the Korean War veteran to start using the boiler by pretending to be his commander, and then he leaves, and then it lingers on him, like starting to shovel the coal out for a few seconds.
But it takes a really long setup to it as well.
It's like, and then there's a part where he sort of demissed it when the Duchess of Kent arrives, and he demissed the window and looks out and watches her get out of the car, and that shot goes on for about 4 or 5 seconds of watching her get out of the car and greeting people in silence. It just seemed really like the editing was very strange. I'd be interested to see to watch an episode from later on in its run to see how it got it. It does feel like it hasn't really found its feet.
Yeah.
But I think it was just so baggy and unfocused, I think, and I think we've all said this, like during it and afterwards, like we didn't really find any sort of discernible jokes at all in it that were like deliberate anyway. And it just seemed that like the laugh track and what was happening on screen was sort of out of sync, or like it was just randomly. We would like turn into each other. There would be like a laugh, cue, and we'd sort of go, "What are they laughing at?
What's the joke here?"
Yeah.
So I'm going to take it back to the very start of this to try give this some structure.
I like the opening credits. I think
that's
what
I was going to start with. Yeah, I think where they've got all the names of the characters and things like the shoes as he's doing the exercise in the gym, when he's lifting the weights, the names are on the weights. Yeah. I'm sure there's more in that I can't quite remember, but yeah, it's a nice little intro sequence. And I don't think it's the quality of the picture as such. I think I remember it being purposefully bad.
Yeah.
I think that effect they have over the top of it is...
That was a very early 90s effect, like that sort of posterized kind of look to it,
Yeah, I quite like that. I don't really know why. So, Wood, you mentioned first of all about the receptionist with the postnatal depression. That's a running joke throughout the series. I've watched the pilots of this, and yeah, she constantly has postnatal depression. If I remember rightly, that happens quite a lot throughout the entire series. One of the early jokes that I suppose was the theme throughout the whole episode was the broken door. That played a big part in the whole thing.
So that's a running theme?
Not the broken door, sorry. Oh. That became part of this actual episode. That was like the backbone to this entire episode.
No, to be fair though, I can see how they could stretch that out over the seasons. I mean, the broken door joke was pretty snappy. Did not drag that out at all.
Well, I got a lot of mileage out of it. To be fair, it wasn't just the fact that it was broken; it's the fact that it was like deadly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh Christ! Yeah.
But to bring it back to the postnatal depression, like there is an extensive scene of her crying and everything, but we don't see the fact that she's a baby until a good 10 minutes afterwards when it comes back to her and then she has a baby. We didn't see that at the beginning, did we? She was just crying and we didn't really understand why.
She was just crying. I think it was established in the first episode that...
Oh, it's the second episode, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically, it was his first day in the first episode, and he didn't know she had a baby, and yeah, everyone said to him, she's just had a baby. So it is established,
Right.
but
No, that's something I can get behind. Postnatal depression is hilarious. So,
yeah, everyone loves that. So one thing they mentioned really early on as well, where we all sort of like, I mean, I think I verbally went whoa, was he walked up to one of the many white people in the queue of people that he was talking to, and he described what he said he needed a black person for diversity, so that the Duchess could see that they were diverse.
Did he say a black, or did he say a black person?
Oh, I think it was black person.
Oh, right, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I would like to go back and check that. It wouldn't surprise me if he said a black, but
You say you said whoa. I think I remember it more. You said you whooped and punched the air.
that is not what happened.
Well, you know.
Yeah, and I think it was a bit of a shame with that, because that they had with the broken door, they brought a guy in to fix it who turned out to be a black guy, and I think Wood, I turned to you and I said I thought that was going to be a callback to that they need a black guy. It was going to be a case of mistaken identity because they called someone in from. They wanted to call someone in from a gospel choir, and he clearly wasn't from a gospel choir. He was in overalls. He was there to work, and I thought that he was going to just mistaken him for the gospel choir person. But that didn't happen.
That's one of the areas we thought that the laugh track was a bit like, or he sort of like, because he walked through the door and there's like a laugh track and was like, well, what?
Yeah, are we just laughing at a black man walk in here?
Well,
or?
we assumed it was like, there was possibly the audience kind of, or I say audience, I don't know. It's probably filmed in front of a live audience. But they put the laugh track in because I assumed they were going to do some sort of like mistaken identity sort of.
I think
it was they was going to get him to sing or something like that. I don't know, but
that would have made sense actually.
I think the audience were on the same track that we were, and they were laughing at the realisation that this was going to pan out, but it didn't.
Some sort of payoff, but there wasn't.
There was no payoff.
He just gave him £25 to go away.
That was that was just one of many things that was sort of picked up and didn't go anywhere. Like, it was just like, I think it comes back to the editing of it and like the way it was paced as odd. Like when they introduced the character of the ex-naval stoker.
Oh, Mr. Barnes.
Mr. Barnes, thank you, who had shrapnel in his head. So
he had shrapnel in his head?
Yeah, that's why he was...
I did not notice that, okay.
Yeah.
Or did they say that, sorry?
They said that.
I missed that, okay.
His head. But then so this exposition comes out when the character says it to the other, and then there's a silence, and it goes back to Brittas, and he just carries on with something completely different. So it's just...
Is this their first meeting?
It's up when they're in that room. Another thing, it doesn't look like a leisure centre, does it? It looks like an office block. I mean, it's just a swimming pool, and then there's a bunch of offices.
Yeah, I guess
There's a scene
so.
of like some people doing like some kind of aerobics class, but it looks like they're crammed into an office.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just very like the bit where he's on the phone to the guy doing the coal, and then he screams. He looks at something and goes, "Ah!" and you assume it's like some big thing, and then it cuts to the guy shoveling the coal for a bit, and it cuts back to him, and it's like some old bloke's eating a sandwich.
Oh, so
with the heat-stroked
so
badminton team.
I wrote down
like
3 mentions of Mr. Barnes. So the first one where he answers the phone, where Brittas is already down there, and he's talking on the phone, and Brittas is talking behind him, and it looks like the joke is supposed to be he thinks Brittas is on the other end of the phone, but he was actually stood behind him. That wasn't turned into a joke. That was just them having a conversation. That was pointless. Second was Brittas phones to find out why the elderly people, like you just mentioned, were too hot. Something else comes up, and he leaves a phone by... for some reason, he's put something warlike on the TV. And there was lots of like gunshots going off and stuff, and that, I think, seems to traumatise Mr. Barnes.
Yeah.
Well, because he'd already told him that they were basically in battle, and that they were chasing down an enemy ship.
Yeah, I think that was the only... I think I quite like that, because that was the only part of the episode that was kind of consistent and had a through line that they played out to the end.
That made sense and worked.
Yeah, and I think that worked quite
well.
well.
It's almost like if they'd have pared it down and had that as like the main driving point of the episode, rather than all the sort of extra stuff about the door not working, them getting,
Yeah, I think they could have like... I mean, the door gag, I think, could have been strong. I think it could have been for an entirely different episode where that was like the running thing. It pretty much like the till in Open All Hours, as that's like a running gag throughout the whole thing. Like, essentially that is the same joke. I think the final mention of Mr. Barnes is when he's knee deep in the water, and it's just like a little montage of him throwing stuff into the boiler, despite the boiler, the water being at the same level in which
It's going
he's
into
throwing
the
stuff
boiler,
in.
yeah.
So the boiler is now just full of water.
Was there? I might be looking into it too much, but there were two characters in the staff who are they implied as being in a gay relationship, or was that?
It is implied that they are a gay couple.
Right.
Yeah, and Brittas doesn't.
He's oblivious to that fact.
Yeah, completely.
Right,
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, I think they try to derive humour from that.
He's got because he's got tights on.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. I forgot that.
I think one of the highlights of the episode for me was the fact that there was a bum bag on.
There was a bum bag. Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't get enough bum bags these days.
Worn correctly as well. Like nowadays, you see people with them slung around the shoulder diagonally. I
Yeah.
don't like that. I like to see it in its rightful place, which is proudly on the front of the hips.
True. That is true.
So, the fact that all the staff have big 90s baseball caps with their name on the front of it, is that a thing that carries on, or is that just a lazy shortcut to get people to remember who they are?
That was not in the pilot that I watched. I think the reason they've done that, perhaps, I'm going to assume is just for this episode because the Duchess is coming. I think that's the thing that he's planned and it's gone well. I imagine that's what that is.
Okay, that's fine.
I think there's a really poor... I imagine that the cast becomes smaller over the future series because there's so many of them.
It's hard to... Yeah.
It really is difficult to follow. And the fact that the name choosing of Linda and Laura, you just can't have characters' names that are that close together. I think there was a time in which he was talking to one of them, that person did not want to talk to him, so he spoke to the other, and I was like, I think you just said the same name there. Yeah, really confusing.
It's just poorly thought out in general. I mean, is it because he was expecting the Duchess of Kent to come to visit that there were nobody in the leisure centre, or was it just there was no one there? Like
There was the old
when
people.
it was really overheating in that, why did they just leave? Like they didn't have to stay there. The badminton club.
Yeah. Again, good question.
No,
Why would you like if the people are overheating and got heat stroke? Why would the first place you take them be the manager's office?
Yeah.
Like it's just kind of like a lot of things that like don't make a lot of sense. Like the guy later on, he gets his bag stuck in a door, and instead of sort of taking his bag off and slipping out the door, he gets, I guess it's like a walking rod or something like that. He's got 3 metal poles.
I think it was like a tent pole.
Oh yeah, so he's got 3 tent poles, like metal, and then he sort of like sticks them into exposed wires and electrocutes himself in some great...
that was an
90s,
incredible effect, wasn't it?
90s effect. But then he's like been electrocuted, he's passed out, they can't revive him, and they kind of just forget about him. So like he's died.
Yeah.
Into that as well, like... Surely a prerequisite of working at a leisure centre is that you have a decent grasp of first aid, and nobody really knows what to do.
It's sort of like slapped his hand a bit and like, oh, he's unconscious, and then they sort of just forget it, and then...
Didn't even put him in a recovery position, that's basic.
They just sort of left him. I mean, I'm struggling, basically, all the stuff that's gone wrong in this episode, like he's flooded the basement and the boiler, that's wrecked. Swimming pool's wrecked. They've killed a guy with electricity. They've had the Boy Scout who's fainted.
Yeah.
Loads of people
Small
have fainted.
tiles. Yeah.
How's he been left as a manager of that leisure centre for another 51 episodes over 7 series?
Yeah.
It's like, surely that's like, that's grounds for dismissal, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, no one slept in.
No.
That's
like
poor Whitby, you should sort it out.
And the Duchess didn't even get in.
Yeah, oh God. So I'm going to jump to the very end quickly. So is it Colin, that one character with a weird hand wrapped in a bandage? There was a time at the start where he really wanted to shake her hand. He was a big fan of the Royals, or that's his favourite Royal, I think he said. And then we get a close-up of later on him shaking her hand. And how would you guys describe what was left on her hand?
It's like a
scab.
Scab, yeah. I mean, according to the sort of the Wikipedia entry of that, it's
Please do.
Brittas's other deputy, the dim-witted Colin Weatherby, has several skin allergies and an infected hand. And that, I guess that's a plot point throughout the series, that he's got this sort of these allergies and an infection, as comedic as that is.
Again, that comes back to my first aid point. Somebody should be able to properly dress that hand.
Yeah.
But then again, this isn't a documentary about the day-to-day life of
That is true.
leisure centre. It is, after all, what's supposedly a comedy.
I remember him getting more and more gross as the series progressed. I remember that from being a kid, thinking he had like weird skin conditions on his face and stuff. So, I mean that character development. That's a great plus point.
It is a great arc. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think the high point of the Doors running gag was the baby cot, not cot. What's the word? Like a basket
carry
kind of
thing.
carry cot thing. Was getting trapped in the door, and the lady becoming quite hysterical, and then the doors opening, and then the baby thing falling on the floor.
Falls about sort of like 3 foot. And
Yeah, and
he's just kind of like, just pick it up and go.
yeah, like, there was no sense of like.
It's almost as if he's got no like empathy or anything. He can't relate to people. I mean, I know it says like he's got like sort of like he's just tactless and he's a bit incompetent and stuff like that, but it's almost like he's a psychopath. He's got like no sort of human interaction, is he? Like his wife's obviously like quite in a state of distress, like and everything like that, and he's just like bumbling through it, like, oh yeah, what a lovely wife, but not just a pretty face. She's got a little brain in there, and stuff like that. And he's got no sort of like way to relate to human emotions. It's a very strange, strange character, really.
So you mentioned the wife. There was a bit at the start where she made all sandwiches and stuff for the Duchess, and then she tells Laura, "Leave while you still can." And yeah, I mean that didn't amount to anything. But why has she not left him in that relationship? They're going for. I mean, they've had 2 kids together, from what I remember, and this continues for 7 series. I don't imagine this progresses to a divorce. Why is she not going to leave herself?
No, I know it says it's like he's meant to be like a well-meaning guy, but I couldn't see any of that. I couldn't see any sort of like positive characteristics from him that make, like, usually in this sort of thing, you'd kind of like feel from a bit. You'd be like, oh, okay, he's obviously, it's usually the staff that's sort of mucking up and he's trying his best, and you've got some sort of empathy for the main character, but it's just come across as an arse, really.
Yeah.
Do they have kids then? Is that mentioned later on?
Yeah, so in the pilot episode, 2 of his kids are playing with their neighbour's kid, and hilarity ensues.
I would say that they're staying together until the kids are 18 or so, then they're going to divorce.
Yeah, I can see it. Or, I'm going to throw it out there, Chris Barrie's got a big dick.
Brittas has got a dick.
Well, yeah. He's a method actor, so could be Barrie with a big dick.
All right, fine. I mean, I didn't.
So there's that.
Yeah.
As always, I like to try play a little game, if we can, each episode. First episode, we had using a song of ABBA, pitch a new sitcom. I couldn't think of a decent game for this one, but would you? I think you've got a beautiful little game that we're going to play this time.
Is it try to imagine this episode but with a joke in it?
Well, yeah.
Actually, that said, so we should probably mention that if did anyone manage to dredge out a joke of that episode?
Yeah, let's do joke of the week first.
Anyone?
I don't know. My notes are just like, I've got like, there's a draft.
There's a draft.
There's a draft in the doors.
I got a huge laugh from me.
War, electricity, what is going on, and fainting.
That's just your shopping list.
That's my yeah. That's my Google search.
I think from memory, like the biggest laugh was the baby falling down. Was it? You reckon? The biggest laugh from the if it was a studio audience or whatever.
Perhaps,
was laughing.
yeah, perhaps should have done. Yeah,
that seemed to be the biggest laugh. But I think we both have the same joke.
I think
that's the only actual intentional joke that was.
Yeah, I mean, I'll let you read it.
Yeah, so it's the part where he's talking to some builders in the swimming pool area, and then in the back of the shot, I wasn't really paying attention to that part, but I think it was like some local youths sort of ran in. Someone ran in through the fire door and jumped into the pool, and he was annoyed about it. And Colin was like, "Oh, it's fine, you know, they got in through the fire doors and that." And his Brittas' response to that was,
"This is a leisure centre for the community, Colin. We can't have people strolling in off the streets."
Yeah, which is a good joke.
Yeah,
that's a well-written joke.
Yeah,
but it felt wasted. Like I think it's bizarre because like his delivery of everything. He's a very wooden character, and there was one bit in particular that I laughed at because of how wooden he is. But it doesn't work. That joke doesn't work with that delivery, for me. But it's a well-written joke. It felt wasted.
In this show, yes.
Yeah, yeah, in this show, yeah. Pen on paper is wasted in this show, it would seem, in this episode.
Yeah, It was a real slog to get through. I think we should.
Yeah.
The whole thing was just so contrived. It was really contrived. We didn't even talk about what the payoff to the whole episode was the fact that they were the doors that, again, milking that particular cow again was that the doors were broken and shut and they couldn't manage to open them. They tried to get a Boy Scout who had an electrician's badge. I don't know if they found him, but he came in and they tried to get him to fix the door, but he fainted with the heat caused by the stoker overstoking the boiler.
I was never a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
I think you were.
Yeah.
Were you a Boy Scout?
Did Beavers.
Beavers, okay.
But what about Scouts? Nothing about your private life.
Is there such badge as electrician's badge? Because as far as I understand it, you need to get a corgi license. Is that a badge you get?
Possibly. I don't remember doing it.
I thought there's a lot of badges, aren't there? You can get badges for anything, really.
Yeah.
Can't you?
Yeah.
What's the best badge you guys got?
It's a good question. I'd say I thought probably it was a classic. I mean, there's fire making and fire lighting.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a real staple of the Scout community, and I did a decent job of it, to be honest.
Yeah. Cool. Good choice.
I don't even remember progressing to get badges.
Badges.
I think I lost interest. I was like, no.
Just in it for the uniform.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the woggles.
In it for the woggles.
There we go.
For the what?
Woggles. The little scarf they wear, the little thing that holds it together.
In it for the woggles.
Anyway, so it's a good Supergrass album. So then they can't open the doors, and then the Duchess of Kent arrives. Obviously, in the meantime, the boiler room is flooding from the leaking swimming pool. There's so many threads in this episode. Anyway, so then Brittas is racking his brain trying to figure out how to get Duchess of Kent into the leisure centre, and then the big payoff is, have her come in through the boiler room.
Which works. It ties together at the end, but it's, as you say, it's so contrived that
It gets the Duchess into the building through a flooded boiler room.
Yeah.
And then she's coming into the, like, you keep saying, like, right, everyone line up, forget the guy who's dead on the floor, whatever. But it's, I don't know.
Who was the guy who came in with the
He was
like the hiking?
He's the gospel guy. So at the start, when they said they needed some diversity, they want a black person for diversity. They said, I know a guy that sings at the gospel choir, and that was that guy. I don't know why.
So the way they indicated to everyone that he was a gospel singer was have him have a huge hiking backpack.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason that they needed to have him have a big tent pole.
Well, I thought we need to have him have a long metal stick and get electrocuted. How can we, he could have made him blind and he had a big...
I was just thinking blind.
Something like that, but then, I don't know. I don't really know. I think that's the caption for it. I don't really know what was going on.
I'm glad it's over.
I am as well, if I'm honest, but I think this did run for 7 series. I do think we've just picked a really bad episode to watch.
Yeah, I think it wasn't. It didn't really know what it was. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to say without seeing how the rest of the episodes are like. But
I think perhaps we'll watch like a later episode to see how things have changed. You'll do
a redux.
Yeah, British retrospective.
They obviously work like backwards from the title,
Yeah. I mean, nothing wrong with doing that. It's pretty much what I've done for this podcast.
Jesus.
British Shitcom. What can we do with that?
Yeah. Anyway, so what was let's try and salvage something from this. What's the game you came up with, Chris?
Yes.
Well, I mean, obviously, like, the title is the Brittas Empire, which I'm assuming is some kind of play on the British Empire.
Oh,
and
right.
obviously,
I get it now.
just in case you missed that, but his name's Brittas, and it sounds like British.
Yeah.
And then they couldn't just call it the Brittas, the British Empire.
Yeah.
See what we did there. Doesn't really have an empire, and he's just the manager, really. So.
But does it establish that he's like got a franchise of leisure centres? Because they said I mentioned like another leisure centre where 14 people walked out one of his talks.
There was a joke in a previous episode. I can't remember it word for word, but it's basically about how they'd suggested he be promoted to Whitby, but it was basically a way of letting him go. But they made him think he was being promoted.
So he's just a regional manager of
He's just a regional manager that keeps getting passed from...
So it doesn't own the...
No.
Sorry, carry on.
Oh, okay. So I don't know, really. I guess it's favourite empire.
I mean, you know me,
It's
I
kinda
love my
I mean,
history, so this is going to be great.
Well, it's good. I think if we link every sitcom back to history in some way, then we're all just gonna have fun and we might learn something.
We
Yeah.
might.
That
I
was what,
certainly will. I know nothing.
That's
at
what I
all.
thought the goal of this was. It was like sort of a historical look at
I should have explained this podcast better, shouldn't I?
a historical look at where we've been, where we're going, and
I don't know where we're
Le-
going. We
learning-
don't know where we're going.
learning
at
lessons
all.
from the past.
Um,
So I guess Jones' favourite empire.
oh, for Jesus. I'm gonna go for the noughties indie act Empire of the Sun that hit Walking on a Dream. That's my favourite empire.
I don't remember that song.
No, they were like a kind of a pound shop version of MGMT.
Oh.
Maybe being a bit harsh, but it's not necessarily what you're after. But I'm not going to play your little games.
Not got power little games. No.
Not going to say the Mongol Empire. Not going to say, Byzantium or whatever it is. But that's not one, is it? Byzantine.
Well, it was the sort of the Roman Empire after the collapse of the West, and it sort of went into the Byzantium and Constantinople, and that sort of the Eastern Empire continued after.
I don't know how we're going to type this up into something funny. I'll put some slide whistles in the background or something. A
Yeah,
honking
we'll-
sound.
we'll
Could have
do
like some like
something, won't
Smashing
we?
Glass, or like got a favourite empire.
Go on, Mark.
Empires.
Boardwalk Empire. That's a good one.
I really know nothing about history. I know Romans have one. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Good, correct.
Good one.
Name that empire. Did the Aztecs have an empire?
I don't
No, I
know.
think
I
the
suppose they had. I suppose the classification of empire is like you've kind of got a lot of territories across a large body of the world. So the Roman Empire kind of had from Italy to sort of Britain, and
Yeah.
whereas the Aztecs really were sort of
Is that-
South America, Mexico based, weren't they?
Is that a really polite no?
No, I wouldn't really call it empire.
I just like the Aztecs. I don't know much about them, but I like the look of them. I think
They're great, yeah.
it's cool, yeah.
Yeah,
And the
they're
Mayans
good
as well.
lads.
All that.
The capital was called Tenochtitlan, wasn't it?
Pardon?
Tenochtitlan. Was the name of the capital, wasn't it?
I don't know. I
like
don't
it
really
'cause
know
it-
much about the Aztecs.
I like it because it's got tit in it. Yeah.
The thing is, that joke's better than anything we
Yeah.
found today.
It's good.
Same reason I like Bangkok.
Yeah, 2 parts that. Bangkok. I think
This is really sucked the life out of us, isn't it?
So we were kind of.
we're so dejected.
we were
That
up for it after Gimme Gimme Gimme
yeah.
last week, and now with this really.
I think I was just expecting a lot more out of that. I think because I do like Chris Barrie's character in Red Dwarf. Like Rimmer's like my favourite character in that, and I was expecting, I don't know, just more from it. Like it was just very flat character, and there wasn't much.
Yeah. I think as a character, I think it's got so much potential to be funny. Like there was the one bit I mentioned briefly earlier where his mannerisms I find quite funny. So he's very wooden, and there was a bit where he answered the phone, but instead of just standing and picking up the phone, he arched his back about 60 degrees into the desk.
Yeah, but it didn't hunch his back at all. His
It was
spine was
perfectly
completely
straight. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
incredible. So things like that I think are actually really well acted. So him as a character within the show is great, but I just didn't understand the writing behind it. So I'm hoping that in later episodes his character fits better with the writing, perhaps.
You can kind of imagine it being like maybe later on in the decade, and obviously with a different script and everything, but being a kind of done in a kind of office style way. Because I saw like maybe especially in that scene where he went into the exercise class and gave them a quote unquote like pep talk kind of thing.
Yeah.
You could see kind of shades of David Brent there and possibly very very light shades of David Brent, but I could you could possibly see it being done in that way, in that kind of
Yeah, no, I can see that.
mockumentary style.
Yeah.
Possibly anything than this.
I quite like the use of the song Locomotion in this. That was quite nice. Locomotion was
You
playing
don't
down
hear
the
that
corridor.
enough. Yeah,
Yeah.
lovely bit of Minogue there.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Is there anything more quintessentially late 80s, early 90s than a bum bang and Kylie Minogue?
It's a lot of like block colours, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's like very sort of like, yeah.
Yeah.
Solid answer.
Colours.
Colours.
I don't know what to say. Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, I don't think any of us do. Like,
It didn't look like a leisure centre. Like the set design was like, it looked like a secondary school. Like it looked like classrooms in a secondary school.
I think if we're going to pick on anyone, I'm going to turn that into a game. If we're going to pick on any department that made this show, who did the best job? I'm going to be nice about it. So you got the set team, you got the wardrobe department, you got the writers. Who did the best job in this episode?
I think there should be an honorary shout out to the costume department for making it just so incredibly 90s. Like the bum bag we've already mentioned, like those glossy tights that the guy was wearing.
Yeah, they were
magnificent. Huge baseball caps. And you know, Chris Barrie's enormous, almost completely cubic double-breasted jacket.
Yeah, it's a great suit.
MVP for this episode has to be the visual effects department. They really pulled it out with like the sparks.
I forgot that
the flooding boiler room, and then you know, big shout out to the strange electrocution scene where all of us in unison said, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah, I think it was the bit when the gospel singer electrocuted himself, and the visual department must have just gone 2 shades of blue, and then that's all that appeared on screen, just a big two shades of blue. It was staggering as to what that was.
That's also the name of your erotic novel, isn't it?
2 shades of blue. Yeah. Just yes, that's all I've got for that. Yeah. All right, yeah, wardrobe and visuals then wins that prize. That was a great game. Should we wrap this one up? Because like, there's so little in this. I don't know what to say.
Probably sorry.
Yeah,
apologise to us and to poor bastards who listen to this.
Okay, so that was episode 2 of the Great British Shitcom with the Brittas Empire. Dejection in my voice. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. Just search for Great British Shitcom or send us a tweet on Twitter at British Shitcom. Tell us some of your favourite sitcoms of the past using the hashtag Shitcom, and we'll dedicate future episodes to you. Share the podcast with family and friends, or as usual, if you hate it, just send it with people you don't like to get them listening. I've been Mark. Sorry from me.
Yeah, bye. I've been Chris Wood.
I've been the other Chris. Yeah.
Should we do a sorry in unison?
Yeah. I'm not. You made us do this. I'm not.
Yeah. All right. Fair. Okay. I'll just do 3 sorries. Sorry.
I don't think we can end on a sorry, can we? do we want anyone to come back for episode 3?
I was going to try and end with like some kind of callback to the dialogue in this episode, but there's nothing.
No, there's nothing at all, is there?
Should we just have a big like electrocution sound, like?
I think let's just all go down to the boiler and start shoveling some coal.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.